Welcome to everybody, and we would be beginning the meeting with the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Denise? Can I have a second?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, and Kelly on a second. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? 7 in favor. All right, is anyone here for public comment? No public comments. All right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 7th?
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from August 7th.
Thank you, and a second? Kelly? Any corrections? Go ahead.
These are just super quick, easy ones. On page 2, last paragraph, it's Anita Mathur, M-A-T-H-U-R. And on page 3, the architect is Novo Studio Architects.
I would also say on page 3, Daimler Motors, it's Daimler, D-A-I, and that's super superficial. Anyone else have any corrections? Okay. All in favor of the amended minutes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor? And 2, none opposed? Okay, and 2 abstains. 2 abstain. Okay. Announcements from the district.
Good evening, Rebecca Noe, Principal of Oyster River High School. I haven't seen you all for a very long time, so hi again. First, I wanted to let you know for summer school, it was very successful this summer. All of the students who attended passed their course or courses, so I wanted to let you know about that. Our introduction to high school last week, we had 2 different sessions. In the first session, we had about 48 families, and in the second session, we had about 78 families. Very successful. Our counselors did an amazing job. The administrative team did a section, and then the counselors did a section with both parents and students, and then they flipped. The students had a scavenger hunt at the end, and then we also have our freshman orientation this Friday, and that's from 11 to 3. It's different than the intro to high school, so freshmen on Friday are going to meet their advisors and spend some time with their actual advisory. They'll follow their schedules so they know where all of their classes are. They get their computers, and Celeste Best goes over some basic things they need to know for that first day. So a little bit different, but some things that they know, and then following their schedule is a big deal because then they really get to know the high school and feel like they know where to go on that first day. Today, the counselors held 2 sessions about college applications. They had a guest speaker from the UNH admissions who helped them with that process and looking at admissions and the process and college writing. They also had 1 session on career planning. So the counselors do an amazing job with that, and it's also very successful. We have more kids that come every year. Over the summer, we had quite a few teachers coming in for curriculum work and their specific discipline, whether it was social studies or world language. But we also had different committees come in, like advisory or vision of a graduate, that we're doing our continued work from over the year. And then many teachers did outside work for professional development when they went to different seminars or workshops. And so I'll be telling you more about those in the future also. Our new teachers started today, so we're really excited to welcome our new Bobcats. I told you about freshman orientation, and then I did send the welcome letter last night. I did it about 8 o'clock, so actually I think most people got it at about 6 tonight when our Parent Square sends it out. So that welcome letter, if you didn't see it yesterday, will be in your inbox this evening. There's a lot of beginning of information in, for the first beginning of the year, the first 2 days, different schedules, how we communicate out, cell phone, our new cell phone practice for the year, all of those things are in there. And I welcome questions from parents, emails if they want to stop in. And students can also come into the building in the next couple days if they want to look at their schedule. Any transfer students walk around the building. The building's open from 8 to 3, and they're very welcome to do that. 2 dates that are really important, so only 2 this time. But next Wednesday, the 28th, is the first day of school. It is a blue day, and so when kids look at their schedule, they'll know to follow the blue schedule. And also picture day, so September 5th at the high school is going to be picture day, so I'm just putting that out there really early. So any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any announcements from the board? Okay, moving right along. Assistant Superintendent.
Sorry about that. Yesterday we had a training session, Title IX, as well as suicide prevention, and then we had picture taking for our IT, transportation, child nutrition services, front office staff, SAU staff, and a variety of other people. So we all joined together, and we had, I just want to thank the middle school counselors as well as Felicia Sperry for helping out with that, and Wendy also helped out to organize the pictures, which is important for all of us to have updated pictures for security reasons on our badges. We had today, as Becca said, we welcomed our new faculty today, so they had a very full day today, and I'm sure it felt a little bit like drinking from a fire hose. So full of information and meeting people. And we had Jen Brown come today to talk about communication. Rachel Blancett came to talk about belonging and some of the work we've done around that. We had HR there. We had Catherine there to talk about special student services. We spent a lot of time talking about professional learning and growth. And so there are a variety of things. They all received their laptops, and IT was very helpful with that. Rob Quiglieri was also very helpful to help to get teachers into different software that we utilize. So a lot of hands to make it work and make it happen. And I just want to thank everybody for their support with that. And tomorrow, the new faculty will be returning, and they will be going directly to their buildings and working on building level things. And then on Friday, they meet with the digital learning specialists for half a day to make sure Schoology is working correctly in PowerSchool and that they can access everything they need to do. They understand how to do things like take attendance and put grades in, and how to find some of the different software that we use also for curriculum and instruction. So we're very excited about inviting them. We have opening day is coming up. We're very excited for all faculty to join us on Monday. And Monday and Tuesday they will be in to get ready for the school year and to welcome them back. I'd also like to remind families about registration. We're doing a great job with registration this year. Our numbers are higher than they typically are this close, but we are not at 100%, which is where we would like to be. So if you have not registered your student, we are leaving it open this week on the Jen has left it open on the web page, so it's an easy link for people. Even if it's not an easy link on the front of the web page, you can still access and register your child by going into PowerSchool directly. So if anyone has any questions about that, please reach out to your school building, and we can support you if you're having technical difficulties or if you have questions about registration. If families do not register by the opening day, then we will be reaching directly out to them. And then I just wanted to remind people about a few things that are going to be happening coming up in the near future. September 10th is a teacher workshop day, so it's a pretty quick after the start of the year, and I just want to remind families that that is a teacher workshop day. Also, we have two exciting things being planned. One, on October 10th is our first community dinner, and then I just solidified plans for ICAC to come back. Last year, Internet Crimes Against Children, they came to do a presentation. We had a lot of people. We had a lot of wonderful feedback around that. And so they're going to actually come in October this year. They'll be here October 28th, so that we can try to get them in twice this year, once at the beginning of the year and then have them come back. We're not sure if the K9 will be there. We're working to get the dog to join us. He wasn't able to come last time, but we're hoping that he can be there this time. So, and more information about that will be coming out. Any questions? Denise?
How many new faculty are there?
So today we had about 24 people. We have more than that, in that we have people that are moving from one building to another. So they're new within their building, but they didn't necessarily come today. Yeah. Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much. Superintendent?
Thank you. I would ask middle school principal Bill Sullivan to come to the podium and middle school social studies teacher Valerie Wilson as well. So at our last meeting, I wouldn't say in passing, but we had the opportunity to mention a special award for a member of our staff. And so this evening, it is my great pleasure to congratulate and celebrate Oyster River Middle School social studies teacher Valerie Wilson, who has been named the 2024 New Hampshire History Teacher of the Year by the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. And so for background and for context, the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History is the nation's leading nonprofit organization dedicated to K-12 American history education. Since 2004, it has recognized exceptional K-12 teachers for their outstanding contributions in the field of social studies and American history. And so through this selection, I would say, or this award, Ms. Wilson is now one of 53 finalists nationwide who will be considered for the 2024 National History Teacher of the Year Award. So I want to say on behalf, certainly, of the administration, their colleagues, certainly the board, congratulations on this distinguished honor, and we're so glad you're here tonight to celebrate.
I'll just say a very brief thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement, and I'm super humbled and honored, and I get to do what I do because of where I am, and I credit the board and our policies and the community and supportive families to do what I do. So I'm very grateful.
Bill, would you like to add anything as well?
Yeah, thank you. I've had the pleasure to work with Val over the last 19 years together, and this award is well-deserved. I can't say enough about the work that Val does in her classroom with her kids, but also with our staff. She's a leader amongst our building and does amazing work. So I feel blessed to work with her and to have her working with our children in Oyster River.
And I want to add that Val is front and center around a mentorship program for teachers. So today you had the opportunity to introduce yourself to our new staff and really be a part of help guiding the professional development of teachers across the system. So thank you for that as well. So congratulations to you on this wonderful honor. We have our fingers crossed for that national award as well.
Thank you. How many years has she worked here? That's fine, I'll get it later.
2004, I think. So do we want to go to the academic integrity? Thank you. Discussion, then I'll come back to other topics. Thank you. So you may recall originally at our July 4th meeting, we had a placeholder to hear from high school principal Becca Noe about the work to revise and revamp the academic integrity guidelines for the high school. And so we wanted to give Becca and Mike the opportunity to just share their thoughts on the work that has been certainly a collaborative effort with teachers, and to talk more about this is now part of the student handbook, and then provide opportunity for the board to ask any questions as well. So thank you.
So as you know, over the past year, I've talked a few times about different committees that we have and the teachers that are working on those committees. And so I thought it only right that Mike McCann actually lead this conversation, because he's the administrator that worked with those teachers over the course of the year through that work, and he can talk about the history of that and what they did. And then if you have questions, we can both help with those.
Good evening.
Mike, before you start, Alexander, can you bump up that podium microphone a little bit? Thank you.
Good. All right. Hi, I'm Mike McCann. So I've been working with the Academic Integrity Committee over the past year to help to bring some consistency and equity for implementing and following through on academic integrity issues within the school. So, this work had begun prior to COVID, as Suzanne remembers. There was a lot of work that was done with staff, students, around developing a policy. We were ready to roll it out, and then COVID hit. So things were kind of went on the back burner for a little bit, but the committee has been working to put something in place that would be honestly, to help staff again, to be consistent and equitable across courses and throughout the school, which is, bringing that equity and fairness to students. So we met monthly, and we researched other schools throughout the state, what kind of policies and procedures they had around cheating and plagiarism and those types of things, as well as artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of research that went into that. We also surveyed our staff within departments. We went to each of the department heads and found out, what are they doing right now when something comes up? Because there are things that are already in place. And so part of our goal is really to bring together what people are doing, bring it into a fair and consistent sort of approach to addressing these issues. I think a couple of things are important. That this is a living document, I guess you would say. It is something that is not, it's finalized for the year because we need something to work with. The teachers need some sort of process to work with. But what we want to do throughout the year is gather feedback from teachers, students, parents. How is this working? How does this implementation of this procedure work for students and staff? So I think it's going to be really important that we revise, reflect on this at the end of the school year. We'll have to do it probably every year, given the changing landscape of technology. I think that's just something we're going to have to do, because I know when this first started out, prior to COVID, AI wasn't even a thing that we were worried about, and now it's front and center. So I do think some of the things that we focused on in the procedure really is around a lot of restorative practices, ensuring that students have an opportunity to redo whatever the assignment is. If it's a paper, then they get a chance to redo it. There are steps to go through so that if these are recurring things, that there's a procedure that follows. We reference the student handbook and the code of conduct when we get along with some of these issues, but the goal is to have teachers be able to, first of all, be the first people to talk to the student about it and to find out what's going on and to see if there needs to be any further investigation around the issue. There are opportunities to reassess when needed. And we were hoping that, the communication from teachers is a big part of this, at least initially, can be a difficult conversation. But the first one is very important to kind of set that groundwork, that it really does come from the classroom. The teachers are working with the students and trying to find ways to support them and teach them. Throughout these guidelines, we do have responses, but also interventions that we will reference throughout. Because we know that oftentimes when these things happen, students might need help. Maybe there's a reason behind what they did. So that really has always been a big part of what we do here. But this helps, honestly, to bring some structure that teachers and students know and understand. And there's a section with definitions that really helps students to know what we're talking about. And also just to be aware of it, from the beginning and not to be caught off guard. Because some of these things are new to students. People are not always aware that utilizing certain tools could constitute plagiarism. And I think this is really, the goal here is to be educational, but also to help prevent these things from continuing. We're open to questions. If you have questions, yes.
Okay, the right button. So I really like the way that it's laid out and the information in terms of it's very clear, and it was very interesting to see the Gen AI and kind of how that was folded in, and I'm glad to hear that you kind of looked across other schools and districts and how that's being handled. And I even see this happening at the collegiate level in terms of it's okay in certain instances, it can't be, claimed as your own, and, those types of things. So, this is something that our students need to know now and to be supported on as they continue forward. So I really appreciate that. How is this information shared with the students?
So we will be having class meetings. We'll be talking about it a little bit there, as well as each teacher should be bringing this up in the context of their classroom. Because it is going to be different for each content area, slightly different in terms of the things they teach and how they assess. But it really should be in the classroom, teacher voice, because that's where it's going to mean something. In the big group, we'll do that as well, but the big groups, we're going to miss some people, as we know, with the larger groups. And it's in the handbook, so we're going to reference that as well. Yes, Denise.
I also appreciate the clarity and the thoroughness, really covering all the bases. My question is around the consequences, the first offense, second offense. I'm just wondering if this is within a class or a year, because I'm also thinking, there might be a situation where as a freshman, a student does something not really understanding whatever, they're allowed to make it up. Maybe junior year, they do something and it's a different kind of context. So I just was curious about, how strict the first offense, second offense, so on will be.
So, old English teacher. So there's a little bit of a difference. So if I had a student, so one of my ninth graders, who cites incorrectly or has a works cited page and forgot the citation, that's an error, right? That's not plagiarism. So we're going to have a mini lesson on, remember, this citation goes with this author. That's why you, and surprisingly, as an English teacher, so many kids don't get that, right? That is a common error. But I think that's the conversation the teacher's having with that student when they're seeing something they have a question about. There's a difference when it is found as plagiarism or cheating, right? When that's found, that's documented in Power of School under discipline. That's where administrators see that. But that's why even if it's something that happens as a freshman, if it happens again as a junior, that means it's been looked into and it has been considered either cheating or plagiarism. This wasn't an accident or an error or a little mini thing the teacher can just correct in the classroom. It was something that you're looking at as most likely deliberate. So that would be the difference.
Go ahead. My question is, I don't see, and maybe it's just not in the pages that you've included with us, a way for the students to kind of dispute a finding and sort of an appeal. I don't want to call it an appeal, but an appeal process.
Yeah, so throughout any disciplinary procedure, there is due process. So what that really means is the students are going to have voice around this, and they'll be able to, that's where the administration comes in. So they'll come to see us, we're objective, we hear both sides of the story, and we investigate it to try to figure it out. So that is really where that appeal comes in.
Okay. So you're kind of between the teacher and the student and their family or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can interject, there is a section that's included process to investigate, and that's where it refers to, so there's not an assumption necessarily that the student is guilty of violating the guidelines. So it's really that process of the teacher meeting with the student, having that conversation to determine whether it is. So I think that's the reference, at least to initially at the teacher level, how this is being investigated and that due process part of it.
Yeah, I read that. My question would be sort of the D in that response. If the student does not acknowledge, they're saying, I didn't do this, and then the teacher says, yes, you did. That's when you guys would step in and try to mediate that situation. Okay, thank you.
So following up on, I think, what Mike just said, the offense is documented in Power School, and so that means it's also tracked cross-discipline. So if someone is caught in English, they would also, and it gets flagged in a history class, then there's a record. It doesn't just live with the teacher. Okay. And then my other question, do we have tools to help faculty identify AI-generated work?
So there are AI, I guess you'd call them checkers. Like you can put something in, and what it does is it looks to see if it could be AI. What we've asked teachers to do is use more than one, because those can be slightly inaccurate too. And something my third year teaching, I had a really good writer in my class who I was sure plagiarized. Nope, they were really that good. So I think there's a part there where if you think it could be, that's one of the reasons you're having a conversation with this kiddo too. But also for teachers, a lot of times, especially once you get further into the year, you know the tone of that student and you know their writing. So if something seems off, and that as an English teacher, that's usually how I was able to catch something. I'm like, this is not how this student sounds, or this is not the vocabulary this kiddo uses. And so I could ask them some questions about that. And so I think there are checkers that you can use, but we do want to make sure we use more than one if we're coming up with the same results and not just relying on one of those.
Yep. Primarily, teachers use Turnitin, which is provided by the district, but we do ask them to try to, if something comes up that is concerning, to try to use something else. And I think it is important, we always say, like, this should be, that's not the be-all, end-all, the numbers aren't the final word. And it even says it right in there in Turnitin that this should be a conversation starter with the student.
Is that kind of software available to the students also to make sure they haven't inadvertently? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and they are encouraged to turn it in ahead of time to see exactly, they can use it as a tool to learn and see like where are the flags.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you both.
I do want to reiterate a couple points. So one, we do think it's really important the teacher is involved in this. And that first contact in the classroom, they're the one working with the content, to have that first conversation with the student. And if there is an issue, to have that first conversation with a parent, to really, they know that kiddo, this is going to be something that's restorative. We want the students to learn from it. This is not something that we want to be punitive. We want them to move forward in a positive way and continue their education in a good way where they're doing their own work. So that's one major point. And part of this too is that it's a pilot, right? We're going to get feedback. We want student voice involved in this. We want teacher voice involved in this. We had teachers, administrators. We actually met with Dr. Shaps to look over what we had been working on for the past year. There's a lot of work and research that went into it, but then how is it going to actually work when put in place? And so getting that feedback from different groups to see where are the tweaks that we need to make, or looking at those different offenses. Do those need to be a little bit different? So that's all the feedback we want to get by the end of the year. And as Mike pointed out, new technology comes out. Does anything need to be revised to looking at that new technology, not knowing what's coming out in the future? We just want to make sure that those are reiterated.
Thank you both very much. We appreciate all your work.
So just to build off that presentation and just a description of where we are today, I think in our conversations, the next step district-wide is to really invite faculty, administrators, and eventually expand the circle of conversation about a philosophy statement around artificial intelligence, looking at it really in three different, I would say, vantage points. One, obviously understanding with students academic integrity, how as a system are we going to come up with a defined philosophy statement for all students and families to understand what is it like to learn in an age of artificial intelligence. Second, I think it's important to look internal in our discussions about how we can harness the power of AI as a district, as professionals. So how does this support a teacher in a classroom thinking about instruction, the delivery of content, and really, kind of really understand the opportunity through AI tools that both, obviously, higher ed and businesses are all in the midst of. And third, it is about preparing students for when they leave the system and the world of continuing education and work. And so it's really thinking from a program of studies, how can we give our students an opportunity to learn and their own skill set around AI coursework that would give it advantages as they move on beyond and graduate from the system. So there's three, in my mind, areas of focus. One is our overarching philosophy and belief statement of, as a public school system, how we navigate I would say, the opportunities and perils of AI in terms of the learning context. Second is to talk about opportunities where we can invest invest in AI as a school system. And third, just making sure we point forward to thinking what are type of coursework students at all levels would benefit from to build that knowledge set and ability to use AI beyond school. So that's more to come on that. And I think we need to really bring in stakeholders across the system who have a strong interest in discussion and really studying this as a system so that we can come forward that way. All right. A couple other points. Earlier today, we sent out a notice to families about transportation and safety. I had the opportunity to speak to Sam Hewitt, the Town of Durham Department of Public Works. As you are aware, the town has been through the process of improving roads and sidewalks, and we wanted to just alert families as we approach the start of school next week of what I would say is ongoing work, probably that will continue to late fall. We've tried to let students at the middle school and high school and families know of the most, I would say, productive route to get to school and to leave through Baghdad Road. They're really encouraging families and students to enter in through Baghdad Road to access the middle school and high school. Next week, they're starting actually paving on Madbury Road, so they are going to have some kind of short-term respite where we start schools so that we can adjust to, kind of families beginning the year. But it's important to note that this will be ongoing, and so we really wanted to let people know they need to add in some more time relative to foot travel to school, walking to school, be mindful of sidewalks and ongoing work. And then as far as, I would say, drop off, that we really need to have cooperation by everyone to make sure that we don't have chaos and challenge our level of safety around schools. So there's a lot to talk about that will remind families about that. I think equally important today, there was somewhat of a delay to finalize bus routes and bus information in terms of bus stops through Power School. Today, that information is now available on the website. We encourage families, if they have any questions, to just plug in the address, and that information was shared to make sure that we can confirm where and when a child will be picked up for school. So more to come on transportation and safety, but I just wanted to bring that up as well. I would say certainly all efforts are currently underway to prepare for a grand opening of school, the first day of school, the celebration of returning to academic work. And so we're excited. Obviously, looking around during the day, it's great to see so many student athletes participating in preparation for the fall season. So I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to watch our student athletes perform in the fall season. And I think for the most part, the energy and excitement today of our new teachers, the focus and really prioritizing support for entry into the system is really something we've discussed all summer in all areas. I know our IT department has been working nonstop all summer. We have an initiative this year to replace our devices for our faculty. We're trying to make sure that everything's ready to go with our network, and just that people can focus on teaching and learning right from the start. So that's exciting as well. So that's my report. I don't know if there's any questions about the opening school. Yes, Jim.
This is just regarding the transportation of coming in on Baghdad Road. I think we might have a little clarification about that, because if people are on Baghdad Road, they can't make a right onto Denison. And so I just want to make sure that people are understanding that if you come onto Baghdad, you're going to have to make a loop around and then come up Cove.
Yes.
Because I have come down the road and had somebody coming at me. So if people are new, I don't know if we want to draw a map or something that we could distribute to people, because I think we could have an opportunity for confusion, particularly for people new going to the middle school.
I appreciate that. And so I will sit down tomorrow with Jen. We'll talk through how we can at least provide more specific details about traffic flow. So thank you for that suggestion. Great. Any other questions? Yes, Kelly.
Just kind of staying along the transportation lines, is there any communications that we reach out to Durham PD to get their additional support in, the traffic flow pieces? I know we've had every once in a blue moon a Durham police officer will kind of sit near our road because there's a lot of points where kids have to cross the street, and, you know, we have the pieces there, so.
I met with the SRO today.
Okay.
We talked about, there's going to be additional police presence. In talking with the SRO today, Mike, there is going to be additional police presence for a couple of days because there is a concern of just traffic flow and making sure that we kind of have that awareness. And, you know, obviously, as people may get frustrated with the delays and their schedules, we want to make sure that people follow the flow in traffic and then drop off, and that there aren't people who kind of violate our rules around traffic flow and where to drop off a child. So I think you'll see that, in addition to talking with crossing guards, because there is a concern even on walkways about, you know, blind spots and things like that. So I think we're hoping that our families understand and have that patience, and then, you know, we get into that routine. I think each week we'll see an improvement around the completion of the projects, and so, but we'll probably have more announcements just to remind people each week as we go through the fall. So thank you. Okay. Do we want to move on to enrollment updates? Sure. So in your packets, we provided you with the latest enrollment information. And I would say, as Suzanne had mentioned, that we're pleased with the progress on registration. I think we have a pretty good sense of who is enrolled and plans to attend our schools. I would say, just looking at 2 points of comparison, Heather, thank you for providing me the long-range, short-range projections around enrollment, because my first interest was to say, what are our numbers today, and what did we predict numbers, especially in kindergarten and the elementary. And so one noticeable point is that our kindergarten enrollment is higher than anticipated. And if you recall, I think at our last meeting I mentioned we are in this pretty predictable cycle of increase followed by a decrease the following year. This was supposed to be, I believe, the decrease in enrollment, and we have that increase. So I think it's a positive sign. We hope that trend continues. How we manage that relative to available space and our budget is part of that discussion. But overall, the kindergarten numbers obviously were projected to be at Mohammed, we're 56 students and we have 70 enrolled. So that plus 14 is significant, whereas at Massway, it's a plus 6. We were supposed to have 63 in our projections, and we're 69. Overall, I think our 2 elementary schools are up combined about 20 students in terms of off of where our projections suggested it would be. So we're fairly close overall. On the middle school, we have a slight decrease from what we anticipated. We're actual at, I think, 586 students, and we had projected about 597, close to 600. And the high school is right on target. So that's pretty much. Also, just to mention, as you're looking at the high school tuition students, because we are, I do have a meeting later in the week with Barrington to talk about the tuition agreement and looking at the numbers. We have projected about 175, 172 Barrington students, and we're at 172 right now. So right where we're expected to be in terms of each year, somewhere between 40 and 45 students enrolled. I don't know if there are any questions about the enrollment.
Thank you for providing all the data there. And I've got a question on the high school one. We have a little section that's showing 2024-25 withdrawals that's listing where folks went, if it was another public school or a private school or out of state. Do we have some similar data for that for the middle school?
I think it's possible to provide that information. I would have to check with our registrar, just if we typically ask folks or they provide us with that information when they inform us that they are asking for student records. So I appreciate that question. Let me do my homework to see if I can give you a response. I do think it's important when students and families leave to understand and track the reason. Could be relocation, it could be a decision to attend private school, or something in between. So gathering that data and just over time, it's important. So thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no business administrator report this evening. The student representative is not here. Does the Finance Committee have a report?
Yep, we met last night for a short meeting. Basically, we were together with Dr. Shaps and the business administrator going over the next budget and budget drivers, what to expect, how it's kind of looking right now. Obviously, it's in the design stage by administration. They will present to us in October their draft budget, which then becomes ours to at least massage and get it to where it needs to be. But I think we're starting off pretty well. I have full confidence that the administration will bring us an excellent budget. So that was pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much. We have nothing for the unanimous consent. And so in the discussion and action items, we will move on to the policies. Denise, do you want to handle that?
Yes, certainly. We last met in June, so these are policies that we reviewed, the policy committee reviewed in June. We have 3 policies for first read, and 2 of them are just updates to older versions that are being deleted. The first one, the Public Information Program, KDA, the only thing that's changed in that is just to include the word digital, print or digital, to update that, since the last time was 2013, so lots changed since then. For policy KFA, we did update that policy, and there's actually a couple of changes that we made in policy committee that did not make it in to this draft, and so I did send them to Wendy. The first one is, so this is policy KFA, conduct on school property, under B, definitions. And it should say authorized district personnel, any person who is designated by the superintendent, the principal, as to grounds or activities within, and we're now using their, so we would take out the her, his, and just say within their purview. And then to continue, the athletic director as to athletic events or any other person or person. It so designated, that whole section was crossed out, but we actually want to keep the word so designated. So we just say, or any other person or persons so designated to administer the provisions of this policy relative to specifics, et cetera. And then on policy, oops, now I lost my place here, KL, I think it's KL, or an I, KI, excuse me, KI, visitors to the school. Again, there's a change that we made within policy committee that didn't make it into the draft, and that one is on the second paragraph where it says persons wishing to meet with a teacher. It should say persons wishing to meet with school personnel. So I don't know if people have questions about any of those.
Heather, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep track.
I didn't stick my hand up. Heather, go first.
On policy KFA, conduct on school property, we define smoke and otherwise used tobacco products. Would any of this policy deal with vaping type things?
Where are you specifically in the policy?
C, no.
So it's policy KFA, it's under C, prohibitive conduct, and .6
Oh,
is
6, okay.
smoke and otherwise
Oh, I
used
see.
tobacco products.
Okay.
But given the prolificity of vaping,
Mm-hmm.
whether we wanted to reconsider
Yes.
adding that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me to instead say smoke, maybe smoke vape, or otherwise, it's not just tobacco that
I
people
think,
put
yeah,
in
if I can just
vaping.
interject, and Suzanne, maybe you,
So we worked on that with a parallel policy around tobacco and drugs, and so we can just look at that language, Denise, if you want to look at that and just use the same language, we could do that.
I think that's a good idea, to be consistent. Gianna, I apologize. You're so far away.
I do have one question. I saw that with the previous KFA policy was deleted, and that KFA policy referenced the RSAs, but the new one doesn't have them at the bottom. So I think that's probably just a clerical thing that needs to be popped back in there.
So add the legal references back in.
Yeah.
Yep, makes sense.
And then I do have kind of one question that's kind of sideways, because I don't remember the follow-up on this, so I'll have to send this to you, Denise, is last year when we had our problems with graffiti, there was some discussion about how we wanted to address that within existing policy, if we wanted to address it at all. And I don't remember what happened with that, but I do remember that KFA was one of the policies that was eyeballed of addressing it. And I think it was like KFA or GIC, which is the student conduct, the specific student conduct one. And I was just wondering, what's the status of that, because we never actually completed it.
Suzanne, do you have any idea as far
So
as specific to graffiti?
graffiti is included it's vandalism. So we have a policy on vandalism. In looking at KFA, you're talking about people from the outside coming in and vandalizing.
Well, I just remember it was one of the policies I was
Yeah.
just briefly in that policy meeting, was talking about whether or not it was specific enough to try and address the fact that it was racialized and.
Yeah, so that would be, we could overlap and look at the vandalism policy and then look at the policies, the anti-racism policy that we have, and some of the other ones to make sure that they mirror that and that it's reflected.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would live in I think that's probably where it would end up being, is in vandalism, destruction of property.
Do you have it in front of you, the policy, on the computer?
I do. Which one do?
Under C, subsection 2, is that sort of meet what you're looking for?
The engagement behaviors are harassing or discriminatory. Yeah, so it's just one of the things is that, it does have religion, and it's just, that covers the anti-Semitism. It was just the question of making sure that it was really crystalline clear, because there was some discussion about that. But I just wanted to make sure that maybe we're using consistent language in each of these things to make sure that it's not up for debate in any way, regardless of whether it's public or student conduct.
So in this case, Denise said that.
I would think so. I think it might be a good idea to, for Suzanne to do the research, and maybe even bring it back to policy committee in September, possibly? Or is there a time frame that you?
Yeah, I think we probably should talk about it, because there's federal law also that is related to hate crimes and some other pieces to that. So I think that it's probably worth a conversation.
So we'll, I don't think the visitors, my understanding with the visitors, the only, I think we can approve it for first read, because my understanding is the only thing Gianna's suggesting is that the RSAs that were referenced in the old policy aren't in here. And this is it'll come back for second read anyway.
Okay.
So I think we can say that we want to add those in.
Yeah, that doesn't
And then
feel-
if there's some issue for some reason between now and the next meeting that, we shouldn't include that there, we can always just not approve it for second. We can just go back and revise it again before we approve it for second read. So does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yep, and I would suggest then we also hold off on deleting the existing KFA so that we're not caught
Right.
without a policy. Okay.
Right, yep. So I think, unless there's any other questions or comments or anything, so let me find, if I can find my list now, because plus I printed two-sided, so it's all over the place. Okay, so I think then, based on that I will make a motion to approve KDA, Public Information Program, and KI, Visitors to the Schools, with the revision for first read. Oh, and also, I guess, to delete the old KI.
This microphone is turning off on its own. I'd like to say that to everybody. I think that we've had enough discussion, but does anyone else have anything? Okay, all in favor of the motion? 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Denise. We will now move on to the school board goals. Did everyone get a chance to look at the revisions that were submitted? And is everyone, especially I would say Renee and Gianna, who weren't able to be here, how does it look?
I wanted to add in under communication engagement. I know I brought it up at the last meeting, but I think we need to do a deep dive on the cell phone policy at the high school. It's becoming a bigger issue, not just here, but overall.
It's under leadership. If you go down to the leadership focus area.
Yep.
Is that what you're looking for? I believe that's page 3.
What am I missing here?
On the first column.
Okay.
Second goal.
All right. So I just want to make sure when we do that,
Absolutely.
There's 3 different aspects to this policy that we need to look at. First, we need to look at from the administration staff point of view, because that's, they're the ones directly involved in it. Students, and the one that's going to give us the biggest pushback, which is parents. So that is not something that's probably going to sit in the policy committee to start. It's probably going to come at a higher level and kind of work its way down, So.
If I can just follow up to your point, Brian.
Microphone.
I did put it on. As a follow-up to your point, we talked about the importance of really having a representative group to study this and really, as you suggest, looking at it from all stakeholders' angles. So I think given the national discussion about this issue, our current experience, not only at the middle school, but the new practice at the high school, that this is the perfect time and moment to really bring people in to look at the research, study it, have conversations, and then move that forward at the board level. So thank you.
Perfect. I'm good.
Anyone else? Gianna?
So I reviewed the video at the meeting that I missed, and there was a discussion about putting it under either leadership or communication, talking about mutual link. Was that ever decided upon of whether it was going to be stuck in there somewhere or not?
Given the sensitive nature of that security topic, we decided that that's not an appropriate goal. While it is, I think, appropriate for us to discuss, I don't think it's a school board goal, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my guess. I have one question under the teaching and learning, and we're talking about the competency-based initiatives. There's just something I want for clarification there, is that under initiatives, it says administration presents a plan based on survey data, and then the outcomes is end-of-year review by the administration. I want to have some clarification of whether or not that end-of-year review is of the plan to be implemented or review of the plan that is implemented. Does that make sense? Because because I know there's a lot of things where we have to discuss, well, you guys have to discuss what the plan is actually going to be. It's just a question of whether or not it's going to be implemented in this timeline and then reviewed, or whether or not you're discussing how to do it.
Sure. So at our September 4th meeting, We will present our, I would say, administrative work plan. As part of that plan, there will be very clear, specific initiatives that really talk about the next steps based on the survey results. It is our intention to use this year as we'll really unpack and describe those initiatives, both in middle school, high school, I would say elementary, middle, and high school, that have metrics around, end of year results. So I think the way I would respond to this board goal is that the board, through the last year in the survey, had wanted an update on the status companies based from the system. The results of that survey allowed us this summer to really narrow down our focus as next steps. Those will be articulated on September 4th and then updated as we go through the year with an end of year report in terms of progress.
Does that make sense? The outcome, that goal, the plan is a review. Yeah.
You have to look at the survey results and then decide what to do, and it's not an instantaneous thing. So I just was trying to clarify what it was. But I think
The decision on what to do, we're going to hear on Tuesday. And then that final goal, that end of year review, is how did the plan work?
Right, and
Yeah.
that's what I was just making sure what stage of the plan, but I've got it, so thank you.
Perfect.
And actually, I'll jump in and see if I got one more again. This is, so I apologize this is for my absence last time. This was for the fiscal oversight and capital planning focus area. This may be too nitty-gritty within the kind of broad overview of these, but this would be within the elementary school expansion project, is that I do have some concern about whether or not we need to explicitly say in there that we have an initiative that will be dealing with the intermediate plan for overcrowding at Mahomet, because that will be going forward based upon the projections for enrollment at the next year. And so I was wondering, are we going to, I don't know if that needs to be explicitly said in the initiatives. Of course, we need the condition survey. But then the other part would be, what are we planning in the interim before we actually decide how we're going to do an expansion? Is that kind of folded within that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that any of these goals are exclusionary. I think that when we review that condition survey, if something comes up, we're going to need an intermediate plan, then I think that's something we could discuss and act on if we felt it was necessary as a board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the next year of possibly having both unified arts in the wing.
So if I can just add on to that, certainly prior to my arrival in the spring, there was discussion about the immediate school year, but knowing that if this trend continued in terms of enrollment growth, the potential for year 2 in the intermediate time that any final plans and determinations about adding classrooms, which would be delayed anyway at this point. So the way I was looking at this is that throughout this year, we're going to provide updates to the school board about enrollment projections and adequate time to just share, in advance of planning where we would be relative to any next year decisions around use of instructional space based on our enrollment or lack of space. So I think this is an ongoing update to the board and the community about our enrollment and the impact of learning over the next 2 years. Does that help?
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any comments? Yes, go ahead.
So in the outcomes, you will see either month or sort of season for the outcome to be done. One of the things that we have sort of looked at, it makes more sense to align our goals with the academic year as opposed to the election year. And so that is how these goals are written.
Excellent. Okay, with I didn't hear actually any changes, which is excellent. I would make a motion to approve the school board goals as presented. Can I have a second, Heather? Let me just write that down. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor? 7 in favor. Excellent. And I'd just like to say thank you all, Andy and Robert and Suzanne, for all of your help. And I think this was actually a really good process, and I'm pleased with the results. So thank you very much. All right, any school board committee updates? Seeing none. Is anyone here for public comment? None? All right, closing actions. There are the future meeting dates, September 4th, that's the Wednesday after Labor Day here. September 18th, that's just the first and third Wednesdays. I will note that on October 1st, our first October meeting, that is a Tuesday here. And then it's not on here, but the 17th of October is our second October meeting. That is a Thursday. And they are moved for, I think, holiday reasons or workshop reasons. I'm not sure what they are, but just keep that in the back of your head that those two October dates are off what's normal. Okay, we do need to have a short non-public session, and so I would make a motion to, what? Oh, yeah. A motion to, motion to move to a non-public session under RSA 91 A3 2C. I see what you're saying. Can I have a second on that motion? Heather? And a roll call vote, please.
Renee Bennett, yes.
Brian Cisneros, yes.
Matt Bacon, yes.
Heather Smith, yes.
Denise Day, yes.
Kelly Ickes, yes.
Gian Jelsey, yes.
Thank you very much.